So now it is that your girl's recording. We can go ahead and we can talk about this with this whole situation with Nickelodeon. So if you guys have not seen this, within the Discord or my Discord community, we got the chance to watch Quiet on the Set, which talks about all of the pedo and SA acts that was going on between Dan Snyder, Brian Peck, I think Jason Handy, um, and a couple other people is that was in charge of Nickelodeon for years on end. So this man, and there's a lot of like very serious allegations it is that's being said. Yo, Nev God with the 2 months. I appreciate you. Oh, 4 months. Appreciate you. So and I will say viewer discretion is advised because if you watch that documentary, there's a lot of things on there that's just like as a millennial, as somebody it is that grew up on watching all that, the Amanda Show, um, Drake and Josh, iCarly, like all of these shows on Nickelodeon, and then you see now the level of blatant like adult content that had no business being there. Now seeing that now that bothers me a lot that it was in our face. It was so blatant in our face. And I'm just glad it is that like I'm sure me and a bunch of other people can able to say at least it is that we had such an innocent mind that we didn't know. We didn't know the magnitude to what was going on with this. So yeah, and the logo being a foot, and this man Dan Snyder has like a whole foot fetish. It is bad. So Dan Snyder, the creator for Nickelodeon for many years, maybe like 20 years or something like that, has done an interview as of recent timing. I'm not impressed. I really don't want to talk about this nigga, but here we are. We're gonna speak on it. So Charlie, now that we're talking about Charlie, shout outs to you. Dan Snyder is a creep, and most definitely, indeed, he is. So without further ado, let's get into the next video, y'all. Let's do it.
If you grew up during the 90s or the early 2000s, there's an extremely high chance that you watched some of Dan Schneider's shows. It was like impossible to avoid him. It'd be like trying to dodge raindrops during a thunderstorm. Dan Schneider during this period was the king of children's television programs. He made some of the most influential productions like Drake and Josh, The Amanda Show, iCarly. His resume is just stacked with tons of shows that I imagine meant a lot to many of you growing up. And make no
Yep.
mistake, you meant a lot to the creator of these shows as well. Well, not so much you, but your feet certainly did. The creator of these shows is a monstrous foot fetishist, Dan Get in the Van Schneider. He is
Oh,
a vile, creepy, disgusting human being, and this has been known for years. However, a new docuseries just dropped really diving into this subject matter and putting a spotlight on it in a way that hasn't previously been explored. It's called Quiet on Set. Now, if you don't know what Dan looks like, here's a nice picture of him here. He looks like he was made in the Dragon's Dogma 2 character creator. And Dan Schneider has become the face of Quiet on Set. However, it actually explores more than that. It's like a whole deep look at all of the horrible things that were going on during the
now mind you, to add on to what Charlie's saying, you're talking about casts of these shows that we have not heard from in years, man. It's kind of refreshing to see some of the cast members it is that I grew up watching all that, that was on the Amanda Show, um, that was part of iCarly, Zoe 101. God damn. It's really refreshing to see them, but it's also kind of sad because of the fact it talks about what it is that they had to go through and the level of the creepiness that they had to experience in order to give us, the millennials, and even maybe even some part of Gen Z, the shows it is that we watched. And it's just so disheartening that what they did to these children and what they exposed them to. Now, I know for a fact Brian Peck and Jason Handy um was actually convicted for um child P. Um but Dan Snyder has not been, and at this rate I need to see something done to him too. I need to see some justice done where it is that this nigga get locked up, because there is a lot of crazy allegation. Well, not even allegations. These are things that is I'm gonna go ahead and say it is just true at this point. That this nigga been on some weird shit, and a lot of times it is like people are asked the question of like, well, where was the parents and everything like that. The parents wasn't even allowed in certain spaces. They was just like, hey, listen, all the parents it is you can able to be here, but we'll take care of the kids and everything like that. And oh well, this is like it's sad, bro.
These Nickelodeon productions. It's more than just Dan, but he obviously plays a central role here because he made these shows. He was the head honcho of most of this, and he was well aware of some of these terrible and downright criminal things that were going on behind the scenes on some of these shows. And the reason I mention the foot fetishism off rip here is because that was one of the first things that people really caught on to in the public eye. After Dan's glory days at Nickelodeon, people started to pick up on how odd it was that a lot of these children's shows had an emphasis on feet. Pretty
Yep.
frequently, it was a common thread throughout a lot of these shows, like feet humor and having these child actors and actresses displaying their feet. And in 2013, one of the shows Dan worked on, Sam and Cat, actually ran a competition where kids were supposed to submit pictures of their feet.
Hey, yo. Hey, yo. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. Hold the fuck up. The salmon cat tomorrow, right on the bottom of your foot, and take a picture and use hashtag salmon cat Saturday. We'll retweet and follow until our fingers get sore. That nigga, what?
To them. Like, that's weird. No matter how you
That
spin it,
is
that's a really
weird.
weird thing to request from your audience of children to take pictures of their feet for you. That's just downright creepy and wrong. I can't believe that
I
tweet
didn't
is
even.
still up, by the way, over a decade later, and
It's still up. Come on, I'm like, damn.
no one thought to delete that. That is impressive. But anyway, people started to pick up on Dan's fixation with stompers, and it seemed like his fetish was bleeding into his work, and he was having the children
Somebody go to
unknowingly
Twitter and see if
participate in it by
that tweet
having
is
them
still up.
display their feet. That's what it seemed to a lot of people, so it was obviously very concerning, so people did more and more digging. They found more and more evidence of Dan being an awful piece of shit behind the scenes with a lot of shady things going on there, and it just led to this reputation that people for years have known that Dan blows loads to toes Schneider is not a good person. And now, Quiet on the Set has released, and so much information has come out, not just about Dan, but about that entire Nickelodeon workplace around these child stars. Arguably, the largest piece of new information that dropped during this docuseries was the sexual abuse of Drake Bell by someone named
Yes.
Brian Peck.
Now, piggybacking off of this is more this is an episode 3 that really talks about this, because at the end of episode 2 it talks about there was a child star, um Brian Peck got convicted, and nobody knew, or nobody on the cast, I mean, that worked within Nickelodeon, they never knew who the person was it is that he essayed. And then when you get to episode 3, Drake Bell walks in and sits down, and he explains his entire story on what happened to him. Now, we've watched a video about with Drake Bell and Josh, or Drake and Josh. We looked into a deep dive on like what necessarily happened. And if you guys don't remember, Drake Bell pled guilty on some very inappropriate things it is that he was saying to minors. And at first it's just like, well, damn, like how come it is that he was doing this and this? I don't I'm not making any type of justification here, but a lot of the times it is that when adults do stuff like this, that means it is that they got exposed to it as a child, to where it is that they feel that it may be somewhat a bit of normalcy. So they go ahead and they do these things. And it's not even just with him. There are so many different child stars that we look at now where it's just like, damn, like what happened to them? What bring them to the point? Like there's a very low number of child actors and actresses that made it out okay as at this rate. They went through a lot of different stuff it is that behind the scenes that we may or may not know about. So I know exactly what you mean. You're a product of your environment, unfortunately, and his environment was so disturbing. Yes. And this poor man, Drake, was assaulted on numerous occasions. And the father was the only one that was just like, look, I think it is like, it's this, and this. Brian Peck was in his mother's ear because it is like his Drake's parents got a divorce very early on. So he was in Brian Peck was in the mother's ear, kind of saying to this, hey, in order for him to take off, he's good. He does not need his father to be a manager anymore. So Drake actually obliged by that. Brian got very close with Drake Bell, and it got to the point to where it is he would drive him to certain auditions, type of shows and everything like that, and stay over Brian Peck's house. And these things, it's like obviously the mother probably feels so distraught now, trusting into somebody that did all of these things to their kid. Um, but it's stuff like that to where it is, putting your trust into anybody it is like of your child is already traumatic enough as it is. So uh, watching episode 3 was very disheartening. And then I was just like, you know what? Now this makes sense to why it is that he was doing the things it is that he was doing because of what he got exposed to. So it was tough to see that episode.
So Brian Peck was a coach at Nickelodeon whom was sexually abusing Drake Bell, and he was actually
The tweet is
convicted
still
in
up.
2004. He spent 16 months in the
Damn.
slammer and then immediately upon release landed a job with Disney. If that doesn't show just how rotten to the core this industry is, I don't know what will. There is deep-seated
Wait,
evil.
wait. Wait. So he was arrested August 19th of 2023 or 2003. I gotta say 2003. Charged with 11 counts in March of 2024. Investigation Discovery documentary series Quiet on Set, The Dark Side of Kids TV Nickelodeon star Drake Bell, whom Peck worked with on the Amanda Show, was revealed to be his victim. 2004, he was convicted on 2 counts and was sentenced to 17 or 16 months in prison. That's not enough time. I got a few more, and then memes Monday. Why, what's up, coach? That's not enough time. After his release, he was hired to work on Disney Channel's teen sitcom, The Sweet Life of Zach and Cody. You know what? At this rate now, and there was some people in this I was talking about, like, hey, listen, I bet I was thinking about playing for it anyway, so that works perfectly. Some people was just like, hey, listen, Cartoon Network was the better channel as it is. You don't hear no stuff about that. Listen, I can tell you there was some Cartoon Network shows it is that has some adult content like hell. Because how in Cow and Chicken, they had a segment to where it is that Cow was eating ass. Or the Disney Channel, like Disney Channel shows, we can able to talk about that too. Like none of these child shows was safe. None of them was. None of those was. And the fact that this nigga, Brian Peck, went to prison on these charges and was able to go to the Disney Channel network and still work is just beyond me. That's insane, bro. He shouldn't be allowed to do this. That this is pissing me off.
Rotten to the core this industry is, I don't know what will. There is deep-seated evil in Hollywood. He went to jail for lewd acts with a minor. He is a sex offender, a convicted sex offender, and he immediately got a Disney Channel job working on The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody. What the
Yeah,
fuck?
yeah, that's the issue.
That's mind-bogglingly evil. Like that's not just irresponsible, that's malicious. It's not like they just made some kind of mistake where they put a sex offender in a role where he works almost exclusively with children. It's not like they made a whoopsie-daisy, they just happened to overlook that he's a sex offender. They knew. They would
Exactly.
have to know, and they still hired him for that role regardless. That's
Exactly.
scary. That's terrifying. They're actively enabling a fucking sex offender to potentially prey on more children. Drake also described that when he went into court, Brian Peck had the support of some very powerful and familiar faces. There were 41 character letters written to the judge asking for leniency for Brian Peck.
This, oh yeah, this, yeah, 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 yeah. This is the part it is that this talks about in episode 4, but I didn't get into that. But I heard about this. I've heard about this because some parts of episode 4 is already on the Twitter timeline and stuff like that. So I got the chance to see those. So not only it is that this man was doing these malicious things to children, and the acts that is that he did to Drake Bell, Drake couldn't even go into details about it. But you need to, like, if you look this up and you see the things it is that, oh, we watching it tomorrow. If you've seen the things it is that he did to Drake Bell is disgusting. I mean, he literally went ahead and assaulted this kid, this young boy, like literally assault in the most worst, horrid ways. You mean to fucking tell me after all of those things? Because at the end of chapter or episode 3, you would think it is that finally letting people know to what this man did to you was going to bring some type of relief. It didn't. It didn't bring no type of relief whatsoever for him. That's crazy to think it is that somebody that did this stuff had support from all these different people to where it is that he had that level of leniency. That's disgusting to me. That is very disgusting. That's very disgusting to me that there's people higher up that will protect the will protect people it is who do these things. Like, this is why most people is who've experienced stuff like this of SA or R word, anything like that, they don't want to speak up. Because if you have a situation like this to where it is that they are heavily protected, now it's your word against theirs. And if they have that power to be protected, then it makes you feel worse. You know? What's good, Jimmy?
41 letters
Jimmy!
of support from industry personnel that were trying to get a lighter sentence for Brian Peck, even knowing that he is guilty of the crimes for which he is about to face the punishment, asking for a more generous sentence. These weren't just 41 pieces of toilet paper with nonsensical scribblings on it from nobodies. These were 41 character letters that were submitted by industry personnel, some of whom were high up on the food chain, so these things carried weight. And they're advocating for someone who is guilty of sexually abusing a child. Holy shit. They just viewed it as not a big deal, I guess. Listen, Judge, I understand Brian Peck diddled a child. Who at Nickelodeon hasn't? Are you really gonna throw him away or put him away and throw away the key for that? What about season 3 of Drake and Josh? What actually matters here? Let's think about that. Like, this is crazy to me. It almost stops being surprising learning that Brian Peck landed a job at Disney right after his 16 months in prison for this crime. Because it seems like that entire industry just does not give a fuck about the safety of kids to begin with.
They don't.
So like I said, Quiet on Set isn't just about Dan Schneider and all of the awful things that he has done. It's about how awful that entire industry itself is. But once again, Dan Schneider does still play a large role in this docuseries, highlighting the bad workplace and environment that he would cultivate, the weird shit that would go on in like the writer's room and the way he'd treat some people, just a whole plethora of different bad stuff. And in response to all of this, Dan Schneider himself actually stepped out from the shadows, leaving his little gopher's hidey hole and addressing
No,
it
he's
head
not. No,
on
he's not related. No.
in one of the most painfully scripted and staged apology video interviews I've ever seen.
Hey, it's Boogie. I played T-Bo on Nickelodeon's iCarly. I got a chance to watch the Quiet on Set program.
I ain't got the gang now for all the people it is that was adding me about with this, I seen this and it pissed me off. For you, somebody it is that I want to say the C word so fucking bad, but nigga, you're not you're playing on the wrong field. You're not in protection of the people. And the same thing for it is Macy. Is it Chris Macy? Chris Macy, Corey Macy, those two actors, their mom. You're not playing. You're playing on the wrong side, bro. I want to call y'all the C word so bad, and it's not the it's not a CU word. It's a CO word that I want to use so fucking badly in this. Oh, you fucking sellout.
And I reached out to Dan to see if it was something that he'd be willing to discuss. I'm pleased to say that he said yes.
I almost called this man the
Dan,
ER word.
I'm okay.
The interview is not conducted by a professional, it's conducted by a former actor in one of Dan Schneider's shows, and he is not equipped to handle something like this. This is the biggest load of baloney. Like, this is just some straight up fucking malarkey. There is no pushback from Boogie on anything in this interview at all. It's just strategic softballs designed to give Dan Schneider some kind of sympathetic PR win here, where he comes out of this looking better, where he
Hi,
comes out of
Raven,
this
how are
like
you?
not the bad guy. It's so deplorable that they'd even try something like this with a straight face. I think it is extremely transparent what this is, and I'm happy to say pretty much everyone saw straight through this. This did not give Dan Schneider the dunk I think he was expecting it to. This did not make him look any better in the public's eye. It actually just made it look even more sinister that he was able to, it seems, pre-prepare this interview to mitigate the potential fallout from the docuseries airing.
Let's talk about the massages.
Okay.
Watching the content yesterday, it was disturbing.
It was wrong. It was wrong that I ever put anybody in that position. It was the wrong thing to do. I'd never do it today. I'm embarrassed that I did it then. I apologize to anybody that I ever put in that situation.
Womp womp. You're not sorry. You're not sorry. Quit with all this shit. That was the most unsincere apology it is. Like, you're right. Just spam womp womp at this rate, bro. Like, the fuck is you talking about, bro?
Dan, talk to me about the writer's room. From what I saw, not cool.
No, and I don't mean to cut you off, but if I can cut right to the chase, let me just say, no writer should ever feel uncomfortable in any writer's room, ever, period, the end, no excuses.
It starts with what's supposed to be this moment of taking accountability. Dan Schneider's just point blank apologizing and, holding himself accountable for the sins of the past type vibe. Except he's really not. Like, these aren't things that you just, hand wave away with, a simple apology. A lot of what was reported is, unforgivable bad shit. Like, there's really no way of apologizing for the things that Dan Schneider has done and also been accused of.
Exactly.
So it's just it feels so fucking insincere. And Dan Schneider got away with it, and it seems will continue to get away with it. So he loses nothing by doing something like this, which just makes it frustrating to see him parade around pretending like he cares now all of a sudden. Like, it's extremely easy for him to just be like, oh yeah, that was bad. I feel bad for that. Oh, what a regret. Yep, not good. Like, it's just, I would have liked if the interviewer was someone that would legitimately dive into a lot of these things and actually press him on a lot of these things. This interview never even addresses the things that people want to hear from Dan on, such as the sexualization of the children in those shows.
Or the allegation of Miss Jamie Lynn Spears when she got pregnant during the production of Zoe 101, which is what caused the end of the production, is allegedly the damn father of that child. May I add that Jamie Lynn Spears when she was playing the role for Zoe 101. Now, mind you, I used to fuck with Zoe 101 heavy as a damn kid. When finding out it is like, oh, well, she got pregnant at 16. This is it. It was so bad it is. Britney Spears didn't believe it. She didn't believe it. There was paparazzi come up to her and be like, oh, how do you feel about your sister being pregnant? And she's just like, she's not pregnant. She literally did not believe it is that her own younger sister was pregnant. And may I add, it is Amanda Bynes, because there are some people it is that's asking the questions on like, where's Amanda now? Now I got the chance to see that she has a TikTok page, and she looks a little different. Yeah, she looks like she put on a little bit more weight, and she's living somewhat of a normal life. But this girl was under, also just like Britney Spears, under a conservatorship, which basically means it is that your parents take control of every aspect of what it is you do. You have no level of freedom. So they took control of Amanda's entire social media. So she was on a burner back in 2013 when she was tweeting out all these things. So like, hey, listen, she ended up having to get a termination, if you will, at 13 years old because her boss was the one it is that impregnated her. Oh, please help me from this. Britney Spears was also in a lining in a conservatorship to where it is like, the mother, the father, Jamie Lynn Spears herself was a part of the shit. So at this rate now, it's like especially Amanda Bynes, they've been trying to tell people like, yo, this is what's going on. I need a little bit of help. Like, please help me through this. She's been saying this, that people have been saying these levels of things. Dan, I'm sorry, but there's no level of apology it is that you could ever say to what you caused to the level of trauma between your own goddamn workers, to these children that was underneath you, the parents who also didn't have no damn right or didn't even know to the magnitude of what the fuck it is you was doing. And then oh no, and then to us, the millennials it is who's watching the show and didn't even fucking know it is that all of this blatant sexual content shit was in the fucking TV shows this entire time. Now as us as adults, we look back at this and be like, this shit was blatant. Right in front of our face. Like there's no reason to why it is that this shouldn't been so fucking blatant. Why was this approved? This should have never fucking happened. There's some things it is that you can't apologize for. You caused too much damn trauma. And at this rate is nothing is gonna satisfy me more than seeing some level of justice. That's it. That's it. I don't want to hear no I'm sorry. I don't want to hear none of that stuff, bro. At this rate now, if I see you in the streets, I may go ahead and swing. Like, come on. There's nothing that you could say that will bring a level of just like, oh, well, we forgive. I'm not forgiving shit.
Outside of all the foot stuff, Dan included some very inappropriate things in his programs, such as Ariana Grande milking a potato, and then another scene with her getting like splashed with water and shit. Like all of it was very unacceptable and seems to sexualize the child actors and actresses in his productions. And that was never even brought up in this interview. So this interview it doesn't have any real substance to it. It is legitimately just a scripted PR play from Dan.
Yep.
Cut it. I want my shows to be popular. I want everyone to like. The more people who like the shows, the happier I am.
Yeah.
So if there's anything in a show that needs to be cut because it's upsetting somebody, let's cut it.
So I think it's big for you to say with your work, if it's viewed as that today, you don't have a problem.
Cut it. Cut it.
I mean, that's a solution.
I want to say the word. I can't say this damn word on stream, but you fucking sellout, bro. Just think of a word it is that's very similar to sellout that relates to like our people. Just think of that word. That's what I'm thinking.
Cut it. Cut it.
I mean,
That's
that's
what
a
I'm thinking.
solution.
The last thing I want to
just can't
ever
say
do
it.
is put any content in a show that's going to upset my audience and make them want to turn off the TV.
You're getting to
This
the
is him
line, yeah.
addressing a question that Boogie asked about like inappropriate jokes in there without getting too deep into the weeds.
You can say sorry a million times, and there isn't much that you can do other than put the money you profited from the exploitation of the kids back into the kids. Exactly. Exactly. Worth this bitch ass nigga. I want people to like my shows. Wait, hold on. I like to like my shows, and now to make. Yep. Dr. Umar would be disappointed. You know?
The broad subject of some of these jokes have aged poorly and people look at them as inappropriate for a child audience. How do you respond? The most softball way of asking this question, mind you, and his response was, cut it. Just get rid of it. I don't want it in the show. If it's aged bad and it makes people uncomfortable or, this and that, cut it. And Boogie's like patting him on the back for it, like, oh my goodness, wow. That's so benevolent. What a great solution. Yeah, that makes sense. What the fuck? It's so easy for him to say that now, but it doesn't take away the fact that you filmed it. If you cut Ariana Grande milking a potato type shit, if you cut some of the foot stuff that you included in there, it doesn't change the fact that you still had the child actors and actresses doing that shit and were sexualizing them. It still happened. That's still bad. Cutting it from the final product doesn't erase what you did. It's so frustrating that there's no pushback on any of this in the interview. He just gets to let him say his piece and then get applause for it. It's so stupid.
And when Drake and I talked and he told me what had happened, I was more devastated by that than anything that ever happened to me in my career.
No, you wasn't.
Far. 41 of those people wrote letters for Peck, character letters, praising him for who he was and asking for leniency.
And I bet it is you was one of them niggas. You was one of them niggas trying to help him to get some level of leniency. The fuck out my face.
And they knew that he was guilty. They knew he had confessed to some degree.
And so do
they
you.
Still did this. But Drake's mom, a lovely woman who I stay in contact with this day, she came to me at the time and she said, "Would you help me with my speech for the judge?"
Oh, womp womp. These fake ass crocodile tears, just womp womp womp, bro. Fuck out my face with this, bro. That just pissed me off, bro. This fake ass crying, bro. This shit is pissing me off.
I said, of course. And I did.
Dan Schneider's fishing for the Nickelodeon's Kid Choice Award for the best fake crying. It feels
right. Just go ahead and scene. Fuck out of here with these fake ass crocodile tears, bro.
Super forced and super insincere. Him tearing up while talking about this story.
Right,
This
Steele?
is him talking about the Drake and Brian Peck case, where he mentions 41 people wrote those letters and it baffled him. And then Drake's mom actually asked him to help her write her piece, which he did. And that leads me to a question of, if you knew all this, why didn't you back up Drake Bell? The way it's described, Brian Peck had all of these people in his corner, but Drake really only had his mom and his brother.
That's it. And his father. And his father too. Like, the father knew from like the gate where it's just like, hey, listen, like I'm not trying to leave Drake with this nigga. Like there's something about him it is that I don't trust. And anytime it is that the parents started to speak up and speak out about these things, we've seen that within the first couple of episodes, that the child actor and actresses, they wasn't allowed to come back into the next season. They just got written off and was not allowed to come back. So that's why it is that they was in Drake's ear saying it is, hey, you don't need your father to be the manager. Like, your parents shouldn't be a manager for kids and everything like that. Like, you want somebody that's like within the production side to have experience, X, Y, and Z. So they went ahead and they manipulated this boy. They manipulated him and his mother. The fact that is Dan Schneider even brought up his mom. Truth really be told, it is like, listen, that mom need to go ahead and swing and just swing on dude, because it's like, you did all this shit to my kid, bro. Fuck no. I don't want to be the person that doesn't listen to apologize, but come on now, like use your comments. Right, exactly.
Why weren't you more involved then? Like, I imagine that could have been extraordinarily helpful. But regardless, this interview doesn't do anything to change my perception of Dan Schneider or anyone else's, really, I imagine.
It could have been that, Justin, or it could have been
nothing. This isn't really an interview. It's just a PR piece.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Disguised as an interview. It's just more despicable garbage here. But yeah, anyway, I wanted to talk about this a little bit. Again, the docuseries is called Quiet on Set. It's out now. And yeah, just kind of wanted to go over it a little bit. That's it. So yeah.
You see, now this is why it is that I say this, or anybody it is who have not watched Quiet on Set. Make sure it is that you go ahead and get the opportunity to watch this, because, well, and I have to put down the advisory on this because it is a little bit difficult to watch. There's a lot of things that can be very upsetting. So by all means, viewer discretion is advised. Proceed with your own caution, if you will. I'd understand if it is you did not want to watch it because of how in detail and descriptive it is that it gets. But hey, listen, Charlie, shout outs to you. Fuck that damn Dan Schneider, that Brian Peck nigga, that Jason Handy nigga. Fuck all them damn niggas, bro. And I mean that wholeheartedly. You know what I'm saying? I mean that wholeheartedly. Shout outs to all y'all within the chat. Appreciate y'all. Shout outs to you at home. I see y'all as well. I'm curious to know what it is that you have to say into the comments, because y'all usually be writing. Y'all be putting in some words into the comments. So I'm curious to know what it is you're going to say. But until next time, y'all.